Yeah, the Salomon Sky Run is a 100-kilometer self-navigational race across the Drakensberg mountains, and yeah, my first time doing it. And from what I've seen of the course, it's really rugged, wild, and it's completely out there. I don't think you get many races like this around the world that the route isn't marked. You don't see anyone for hours at a time. Probably the only people you see out there are going to be a few herdsmen and a couple of cattle if you're lucky. So yeah, it's a really out there and an extreme race. I've been up training along the Sky Run route now for just over 2 weeks, just to familiarise myself with the route. Obviously it's a self-navigational route and it's my first time running the Sky Run. So yeah, I came up here to do a bit of homework and try give myself a good chance at doing well at the race. And then also came up here early to get used to the high altitude, living down in Cape Town. Obviously doesn't help yeah, my kind of running in high mountain conditions. And yeah, the rest of the year, I had quite a busy first half of the year doing quite a few races internationally. So leading up to the race, I did a couple of long runs, but I've also been trying to rest my legs a bit just from quite a heavy season. I think going into a race like the Sky Run, you want to be really well rested. You don't want to be overtrained, as 100 Ks is a long way, and kind of running 100 Ks on the Sky Run terrain is even further. I think you can probably compare the race to a 100-mile race just because of the terrain so rugged and wild. Yeah, just before the Western States 100-miler this year, I sprained my ankle really badly and still ran the race, but after the race my ankle was quite badly beaten up. So unfortunately I skipped, I didn't run the Otto or the 2D4 Peaks this year, and it was pretty frustrating sitting on the sidelines and not being able to run. But my main goal after the Western States 100-miler was to run the Sky Run, and I wanted to get my ankle as strong as possible for the Sky Run. So yeah, obviously a few months ago it was pretty frustrating to be sitting on the sidelines and to be doing a lot of rehab, but I think I needed to do that in order to go forward. So yeah, I feel really ready and well rested, and yeah, super keen to get started and run the Sky Run. Yeah, my biggest obstacle in the race will probably be seeing Calvin Troutman and Craig Kaleski out on the route. I think they're always hounding you for photographs. No jokes. Probably the biggest obstacle will definitely be the self-navigational aspect of the race. I think I think it plays in your mind a lot. It's just I've always been used to actually, you run a race and it's either pre-marked or you're running on paths, so you know exactly where to go. Whereas this, you can take so many different lines. You can take a high line, a low line, and you're not following in any paths. So that plays in your mind, like you suddenly make a 5-minute gap on someone and then they catch you because they've taken a better line than you. So yeah, that's I think will be the biggest obstacle of the day. But also being 100 Ks, anything can happen out there. I think I've grown to respect ultra running or ultra trail running. That yeah, sometimes you have a good day, sometimes you have a bad day, and when things aren't going well, it's yeah, it can be really tough and can be a really long day out there. So yeah, not getting too far ahead of myself and just kind of focusing on the experience and having a good time out there. Cool, my weapon of choice is the Salomon S-Lab 5. Obviously I'm fortunate enough or lucky enough to get my shoes customized just because I've got a really wide foot. So in the past I was actually having to take a size shoe two sizes too big for me, and obviously you're always kicking your toes because the shoe's too big. So yeah, obviously having a shoe completely customized for your foot makes a really big difference when it comes to racing. So yeah, really grateful to Salomon that really kind of put that much research and kind of faith into the athletes that they actually kind of build a customized shoe for them. I also customized the sole a little bit how I wanted, like change the drop a bit and shave a few things off just to lighten it up for racing. So yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell the shoe I'll be racing in, the Salomon S-Lab 5, the soft ground. Cool, yeah, I think there'll be a lot of competition out there on Saturday. Yeah, it's been billed to be the strongest field they've had for the Sky Run, the Salomon Sky Run. So yeah, I think there'll be a lot of competition out there. I haven't really eyed out anyone in particular. I think the likes of Bruce, who's won it a number of times, is Ian Don, Washop, Rainer Christel, and a number of other guys. that will all be super strong out there on the day. But I think when it comes to racing, I always just try and focus on my own race. I think if you get caught up too much in racing, it always affects me in the wrong way. So for me, I think it's just about trying to get to the finish line as quick as I can and just really enjoy the experience out there. I think whenever I'm running and I get too focused on the actual racing aspect of it, then I tense up and I don't have a good race. Where if I just enjoy the atmosphere and the vibe and just enjoy the whole experience, that's when kind of I run the most naturally and actually run the best and the fastest. So for me, it's just mainly focusing on my own race and trying not to worry about the guys around me too much. But that being said, obviously it's a race. It's kind of the one South African race I haven't, or one South African trail race I haven't run, and kind of the one race I think I want the most in South Africa. So yeah, I'll definitely be kind of going out there guns blazing on Saturday, but at the same time not trying to worry too much about the competition around me. Cool. Yeah, my average day, obviously being a professional trail runner, obviously try and get in, on most days I'll do a double run, or probably 3 to 4 days a week I'll do a double run, anything from an hour to 3 hours in the morning, and then about an hour or 2 hours in the afternoon. And on some days I'll get a really long run in, at least once a week, anything from 4 to 8 hours, just to try and get my legs used to the long distances. And then also I do a lot of gym work, just trying to strengthen my core. Been doing quite a bit of stuff on strengthening my legs as well at the moment, doing a bit of rehab on my ankle, and also spend a lot of time fixing my wheel alignment, like going to physios and biokineticists, liner therapists, chiropractors. So all in all, probably spend on training up to anything from 20 to 30 hours a week. That's including physios and stuff. So it's yeah, it keeps me fairly busy. And then obviously being a professional athlete and kind of not a mainline sport, I've always had to try and focus a lot on kind of growing the sport and getting my name out there. So I do a lot of media stuff as well, a lot of interviews, meeting a lot of people. So yeah, it's pretty busy some weeks. I think a lot of people thought after quitting my normal kind of 9 to 5 day job that I'd have a lot more time, but actually I probably have less time now, just trying to fit everything in. But I think it's what I love doing. Every day is a new adventure for me and really exciting. So I suppose every day in a way is a holiday for me. I'm living the dream, but you can only do so for so long. So yeah, definitely making the most out of it, and yeah, really loving the whole experience. Cool. The future of SA trail running, I think trail running in general, I think the sport is rapidly growing. I think the number of races kind of popping up all over South Africa and around the world globally. There are a couple of international series like the Sky Running series. There've been 1 or 2 kind of world championships, but again, I think there's so many different federations and different groups that it's quite hard to actually classify one race as a kind of world championship or an SA champs, like I know guys have said, or Otter's or this year they said Otter was the SA champs, and they said the same thing last year. And I think it's probably a bit unfair. I think there's so many different races, and there are so many like old school core races that you can't kind of pick one race. But going forward, I think there is a move, and hopefully they have more of an international global circuit, and then also have the same thing in South Africa, just to give the sport a bit more kind of uniformity, if that makes sense. But in general, I think trail running is a free sport. I don't think you want to see it get too kind of governed and too controlled. But obviously with anything growing, I think there needs to be a certain amount of kind of control in the sport. But I think it's really exciting. The sport's booming. I think when I started trail running, 5 years ago, there's probably 2 or 3 major trail races in South Africa, and now on any given weekend you'll get a handful of trail races, and it's the same as that globally. So yeah, I think that it's really fascinating, and very quickly that the sport is growing into a professional sport, and you'll see there are a lot more professional trail runners out there at the moment. So, and I think just from some of my experiences, I've done a few development trail running camps, and just to see the potential we got in South Africa is really inspiring. I think we've got some awesome athletes coming through, and it'll be really cool to see them on the world stage and performing and kind of putting South Africa on the trail running map on an international level, and I think a number of our athletes can really perform out there, and yeah, I think going forward it's really exciting. Yeah, the toughest trail race in South Africa. I think that's quite an interesting question, and I think it's quite debatable. I think just because a race is 100 k's doesn't mean it's the toughest race, and just because a race has got 6,000 meters of climbing in doesn't mean it's the toughest race. I think every race is tough for its specific reason. So I wouldn't like to say this race is the toughest or that race is the toughest, but I think if you're looking at a race like the Salomon Sky Run, I would definitely put it up there as an extremely tough race. I think obviously I haven't run it yet, but from the parts of the course that I have run, it's really rugged and out there. I've never run anything like that before. Just when you're running out there, you don't see anyone. There are no paths. You just you feel really exposed and vulnerable out there, and just the route is extremely technical. 1 second of lost concentration and you can sprain an ankle. You're running along areas like the Dragon's Back where one wrong footstep and you can kind of fall off the side of a cliff and fall a good 10-20 meters. So it's really extreme, and obviously the self-navigational aspect of it, if the mist closes in, you can't see anything. You can see a meter or so in front of you. So yeah, I definitely say the Sky Run is up there with some of the most extreme races I've run. And I think really excited to be able to run the race on Saturday, being my first race, but at the same time also really nervous. And I think I've got a lot of respect for the race and just the terrain you're running on. I think you've always got to respect the mountains, otherwise they're going to be a lot greater than I'll ever be. So you've got to be pretty humble and respect them at the end of the day.
Are you a bit scared
of the race? Am I scared of the race? I wouldn't say scared, but I've got a healthy respect for the race. I think we'll be going into it a little bit nervous. I think just running up on the skyline, you're pretty high up there. So yeah, excited but also a bit nervous.